I'm delighted to introduce, I'm delighted to introduce Baroness Ludford, who is the Liberal Democrats' European spokesperson on Europe. As a former MEP, Sarah took a leading role in the formulation of EU civil liberties law and law on crime and data protection. And she is also, she has a master's in European studies, is a trained barrister, and I would consider her an expert on this. Please give a big cheer. Okay. Baroness Sarah Ludford. Thank you. And she was also a rapporteur for the European Parliament in investigating Guantanamo Bay. Isn't that right? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Anna. I very much hope to make myself heard, but one speaker apparently isn't working. Anyway, yes, I mean, apparently we're going back to torture. Did you know that? Closer. Okay, right. It's like Theresa May and Trump, isn't it? Hold him closer. Clutch him by the hand. Anyone want to do that? No. Well, I don't know how many of you had the chance to read this white paper that came out on Thursday. You may have had the chance to read the foreword by Theresa May, which doesn't really attest to Tory education standards, as there are no actual verbs in the so-called sentences. But what you might have picked up on is the declaration that the essential ingredient of our success, the strength and support of 65 million people willing us to make it happen. It being extreme Brexit. Because after all the division and discord, the country is coming together. Do you feel part of a national consensus on extreme Brexit? No! I thought not. I have suggested that Theresa May should be one of the people nominated for an Oscar for La La Land. Not least because the white paper maintains, as part of the justification for coming out of EU regulations, is that Brits enjoy 14 weeks paid holiday. If you don't, I think you should sue your employer. I mean, we've had the farce of taking back control, meaning diktat by the executive. I mean, if it was supposed to mean anything, it meant Westminster parliamentary sovereignty. And yet Theresa May wasted 6 months and loads of your money in fighting, in litigating through the courts, which then, of course, got dumped on by the Tory press, to resist parliamentary control of the Brexit process. And I think as Hazel hinted at, and I agree with everything she said, what we should be doing in the next decade is investing in our country to try and address the grievances, the resentments, the problems that we understand that so many people have. And my party leader, Tim Farron, has gone to talk to Leave voters in Preston, where he grew up. This week he was in Doncaster. And by the way, I'm sorry, Labour, but we took a seat from you in the council in Rotherham on Thursday. I think even Leave voters are respecting a party that is clear where it stands. And I think there is absolutely every reason for us on a cross-party basis to hold to our principles. No one voted to come out of the single market and the customs union. That was not on the ballot paper. It is going to cause enormous damage to people's jobs, because businesses depend on very complex supply chains. So do universities, by the way. May not think of it like that, but all their academic exchanges rely on the freedom to trade in people, if you like, within the EU. And talking of free movement, it's a two-way street. And if you say we don't want free movement, you are ditching the aspirations of so many people, not only pensioners to go and live in a sunny clime and access the local health care. Some of them may not realise it's only thanks to the EU that they do that, but young people who are going to be denied the chance to live and study where they want. I think in the next couple of years, people are going to wake up to the benefits that the EU has granted them, which is, part of the point of the exercise, which they've taken for granted, and we need to keep reminding them about. For me, and Anna hinted at some of the work I'd done as an MEP, which was on civil liberties, but it was about security and fighting crime and terrorism together. Because criminals hop over borders. If our police stop at them, then the criminals are laughing all the way to the bank. If we say that we don't want anything to do with EU law and the supervision of the European Court, that is going to completely kibosh our cooperation on crime, on exchanging data, and also in the whole area of civil justice, which is where let's say you have a car accident abroad, and you want to get a judgment and then be able to enforce it for compensation or suing for damage. At the moment, you can go to a court in the UK and get the Italian or French or Spanish court to enforce it. Well, you can kiss goodbye to that in the future if we're not part of EU so-called mutual recognition arrangements. Okay, it sounds like jargon, but what in reality it is benefits to people in their daily lives. The other thing promised by Theresa May is we're going to have a stronger, fairer Britain. So she goes off and holds hands with Trump. This idea that we free ourselves, if we can't cooperate with our closest neighbours in Europe, that somehow we can sail the high seas and it's bringing back the 19th century, obviously, and that's what a lot of people want, But, if you can't cooperate with your closest neighbours, how can you be effective in the world? It's through the EU that we are most effective in the world, whether it's on security, whether it's on trade, whether it's on climate change, on addressing conflict and upholding human rights throughout the world. And as for that trade agreement, as Hazel said, anyone for bleached chicken? Because that's what we could get a trade agreement with the US tomorrow. But, those who had problems with TTIP, you ain't seen nothing yet. Hormone-treated beef, bleached chicken, yes, we could have a trade agreement tomorrow if we were willing to junk all our standards and allow all that rubbish in. So what Liberal Democrats are insisting on, and people across party boundaries and none, are saying, give the people the final say on Brexit, as that poster says. If we believe in democracy, we believe in the people's right to have their say, the final say on whether they accept any deal negotiated by Theresa May or whether they want to stay in the EU with all the advantages, the occasional thing we have to put up with, that we already have. So there is everything to fight for. Thank you so much for coming. Thanks for inviting me today. Keep up your strength.